Flashback to the beginning of this year, early 2023. It is March 27th, and the eShop is closing. In the lead up to the closure, people were panic buying games, physical games, digital games on the 3DS eShop, the Wii U eShop, and just trying to preserve anything they might want to play later. Many of these games were only sold on those stores. And so they were going out of print, and it was the only way to get a legitimate copy. Basically, there was a huge panic buy for the 3DS. It is now, 7, 8 months later, and I regret panic buying. But let's talk about the hype first. People were panic buying. Games like Devil's Third were going away. There are Pokemon games that are locked to the 3DS console that aren't on any other system. The DS ones as well. And, Pokemon Bank is a whole other issue where the 3DS is pretty much the bridge to get your GBA, DS, 3DS Pokemon over to the Switch. But that could be going away soon too. We'll get there. But at one point I had 5 consoles, was just too much. So I had to get rid of at least a few of them and skinny it down. And I knew I was going to sell some for a profit. It wasn't my original goal when I bought the consoles, but it was a good boost. It was helpful towards other things I was doing for the channel or other games I wanted to buy. And yeah, the hype was just huge. So I sold some stuff. And when all was said and done, I felt pretty good. I had a 3DS to transfer my Pokemon game and all the systems required to get GBA up to Switch. I had physical and digital copies of mini games. I had a nice shelf collection of probably like 20 games that I felt good about. The Fire Emblems, Pokemons, Yokai Watches. It just felt good. Until it didn't anymore. Something wasn't right. And the first sign of problems started with a game I picked up at Midwest Gaming Classic, a copy of Pokemon Y. Threw it in a 3DS. Didn't work. It's like, okay, weird. Threw it in another 3DS, still didn't work. And so I decided the only logical explanation was I bought a bad cartridge. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to fix it. There's got to be a way, right? You can fix GBA cartridges, Game Boy cartridges, you rub enough of whatever on them and they just work. Same with SNES or other old carts. So I do the only logical thing and I tear that sucker apart and I try to look at the pins, resolder any connections, reflow it. Still doesn't work. And I finally come to the conclusion that the chip on the cartridge is just dead, which sucks. I was like, okay, well, I bought a bad cart. It's an isolated incident. I'm guessing the seller didn't know. Regardless, I had a dud. So I chalked it up to an L. I threw the cartridge in a little baggie. I put the case in another spot and didn't think about it until I had decided to create a video for the channel based on Pokemon Sapphire, Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. I wanted to compare the two. They were both old by today's standards now, which is crazy to think. I feel like I just started Alpha Sapphire the other day, but anyway, I was replaying original Sapphire. I was like, you know what? I'm going to switch to Alpha Sapphire now. I'm like 7 badges in, whatever. My Alpha Sapphire game wouldn't work. I was like, hold the phone. This is getting weird now. I'm trying a different 3DS. Same problem, just no boot, nothing I can do. So I do a little bit of looking online, and there are multiple people with the same issue, where the 3DS carts just one day decide to stop working. And so I start to panic and test other 3DS carts and other DS carts I have, and wouldn't you know, I've got more dead games, more than I would like to admit, out of that stack. And this is where my regret settled in. There was all this hype leading up to the 3DS going away. This is a fantastic console, by the way. If you want to mod one of these and find your ROMs, your free ways to play, go for it. These are excellent consoles. But if you're a physical game collector, the cartridges are dying. And we might not have as long as we thought we would based on previous Nintendo hardware. SNES cartridges, N64 cartridges, Game Boy cartridges, those things are holding strong 20, 30, dare I say 40 years later. And so I started to unload. I started slimming down my 3DS collection. I sold off a bunch of carts, working and not working. Same with DS stuff. I just didn't want to be left holding the bag at the end of the day with a bunch of faulty carts. And I tried all the things. I tried cleaning it with alcohol. I tried different systems. I tried reflowing things, and just nothing seemed to work. So I realized that emulation is going to become the only way to play a lot of 3DS games, unfortunately. Modding a 3DS or playing on an emulator is going to be the way of the future for the 3DS, because the cartridges are just going to die on you, which is really unfortunate, especially when you think about Pokemon Bank, with 3DS being the last bridge to take Pokemon over, which, by the way, will probably go away sooner than later. Nintendo has already announced the online functions are going to close now in April of 24, and they wouldn't commit on a date for Pokemon Bank. They said it could be earlier. So we could just wake up one day and they pulled the plug, and by the way, that whole long lineage of getting your Pokemon from Pokemon Ruby all the way back in, what was it, 2004, all the way up to Scarlet and Violet, yeah, that connection, that's dead. It's going to happen. All of a sudden, the gap, it becomes massive. And to me, that was part of the joy of the 3DS, is knowing that I could take my Pokemon with me on the adventure every step of the way, every new game that I went to, and I don't know, the continuity is gone for me, which is really unfortunate. It's very close to being gone. I shouldn't say gone, but so there's my regret. I fell into the 3DS hype train, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. I feel like the 3DS hardware is still a good buy. It's really inflated right now. These consoles should not be the price of a Switch Lite right now. Yes, this is old hardware. Yes, they're not making it anymore, but there's enough of these out there that this should not be the same price as a Switch Lite right now. And I think if you want to get into the modding scene, you should be looking at PSP or an original DS right now. 3DSs are really cool. They're really hot. The hype is real. Just definitely steer clear of cartridges. I think they're going to die faster than we originally thought, and they are not worth the hype, especially when you're looking at the price of, Barbie or Yokai Watch 3 or any of those titles. Just, yeah, it's too much. Let me know what you think down below. Did you get caught up in the 3DS hype, and do you regret collecting the 3DS or maybe a different console? Let me know in the comments, and we'll catch you next time.